Well, hello, everybody. Today is Sunday, October the 10th, and this is Life Matters. Let's talk about it. Well, hello, everybody. Greetings, everybody. I am Michele Johnson. I am your host, and welcome to Life Matters. You all know this is the platform where we talk about all things pertaining to African American community. That is not to say we are discriminatory, but it is to say that we talk about those issues that are mainly, that mainly affect us. Not that they don't affect other communities, but since that's who I am, that's who I want to talk about. And it's my show. So anyway, I want to welcome each and every one of you to the show. Once again, I am your host, Michele Johnson, and this is Life Matters with Michele. And my beautiful guest on today is none other than Miss Arlene McGuire. Say hello, precious.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Well, let me introduce this beautiful woman to you all, and we're going to jump right into the show. Arlene McGuire is a Hodgkin's lymphoma extranodule cancer survivor as of 2019, and she found doing artwork to be her daily lifeline during chemo and radiation therapy. Her hobby post-retirement became the mainstay that enabled her to keep her spirit elevated during her treatments. She remains thankful for the support of her husband, children, and grandchildren throughout that journey. It is her artwork that is created using acrylic paint, alcohol ink, oils on stretch canvas, and Yupo paper. She is presently doing dedicated, purpose-driven artwork. The funds that she receives will assist her daughter with physical and occupational therapy treatment and equipment. She survived a stroke last year and has returned home in need of therapy. All sales from her artwork, and we'll talk about that later, will be used to care for the care that her daughter is in need of. She also contributes to St. Jude Hospital for Children and Feeding the Hungry. You can also hear her voice-over imaging work on the Urban Sound Suite with DJ Matt Houston. Weekly shows heard on Mixcloud. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my very special and beautiful guest, who happens to be a bald boss just like me. Yes, yes, yes. And welcome, my sweet. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing really well. Really well.
Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had Arlene on the show earlier this year when I had my bold, beautiful, and bald beauties on here, and the group of us talked about our hair experiences. So it's great to have her back by herself to talk about her topic today, which is joy in later years. Now, I promise you, when I look at her, she is not aging at all. I think time has stood still for her. I'm not going to ask her age, but if she wants to divulge, then she can. But I will say, ladies and gentlemen, that she is very beautiful. She got this beautiful skin and this beautiful smile. And of course, she got the shiny head like me, so we are rocking our bald beauty on today.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes,
It's so
ma'am.
good to be with you. Oh, my.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so we've developed a real sisterhood. We both belong to a couple of groups, but I really am excited about her topic today because when we look at our society and we look at those who are more seasoned, I'll put it that way, some of them have essentially given up on life They've,
Oh,
committed themselves to rocking in a rocking chair. They've committed themselves to, well, I'm just going to have my AARP card and I'm going to go to Sam's and I'm going to come
mm,
home. But I really am excited about this topic because we need to talk about having joy in the later years, because for some reason, and maybe Arlene can speak to this, for some reason people feel like, after retirement or what have you, then life is over, you're on the downhill slope and that's it. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, my dear?
yes, absolutely. I faced exactly that when I retired with a back problem, knee problems, and I started sitting in the house. Now what do I do? And so between talking to my husband and my kids, I realized that I needed to find something to do. I did voiceover, I did radio work, but it wasn't enough. That didn't take up enough of the 8 hour day when I was by myself. And so I suffered through maybe 3, 4 months, and I decided I've always seen a hobby shop called Michael's near my home when I go to Kroger. And so I swung in there one day and bought one canvas and a thing of paint, a small packet of paint, and signed up for a class. I went back for the class when it was scheduled. The Grumbacher had the class, she never came back. She was assigned someplace else. Well, I didn't go back either. I sat at home and putzed around with it. I wish I could take my camera into that room to show you the amount of artwork since 2014 to 2021 I've accumulated,
Mm,
because it fills you up. It just fills you up. It feels as though my writing took second place, sorry to say. My voiceover stayed on top. But just a desire to get up. I bought crayons, I bought markers, I bought alcohol ink, and I experimented across the board. I used YouTube.
mm-hmm,
YouTube. Because as I wrote, is joy available in later years? Not really. The aches, the pains, taking medication, you can't have coffee, watching my sugar, all of those things. uh, we used to say cramp your style. It's like,
mm,
I don't want to feel like this. I want to be energetic. Then the physical shortcomings keep you from wanting to do anything, and sitting becomes your favorite thing. Well, I
mm,
sit a lot as well, but what I do is to use the sitting time while I'm watching television, that should have come later, to move, to
mm-hmm,
move, to move
mm-hmm.
my body in some way, shape, or form. Stand up, and those things I feel are what I would encourage others at the age that I am. I am 70, and believe me, I feel that when I wake up some
You look
morning,
amazing.
I'm not good enough. So yes, it is there. It's not wonderful, um, but because we are alive, we're happy,
Yeah.
and so that brings me to what is the joy that we can reach for on a daily basis. Well, I say the first thing I think of that brings me joy is that he woke me up.
Yes, absolutely.
He
Absolutely.
woke me up. Yeah.
Every new day is a blessing. I always tell people this, and some people say it's kind of morbid. I say, hey, every day above
Nope.
ground is a blessing. I said,
Yeah.
because it could have certainly been the other way. And
Yes.
so I'm like, if you wake up and put your feet on the ground, that's enough to give God the
Thank
glory
you.
and the praise,
Yes.
because He extended you invitation to His day, and He didn't
Yes.
have to do that.
And
And
he did
so
not.
I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of people wake up when they're grumpy, or a lot of people, they wake up and they're like, I'm tired of this, I'm sick of this. I said, well, what is the alternative? The alternative is not so hot these
6 feet.
days,
Yes. Yeah.
or on somebody's mantle, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's not that. And so I'm glad that you said that that's one of the things that gives you joy, because you had another day,
Yeah.
another day to experience the
The,
highs, the lows, the
the
aches and the
Lord.
pains, whatever they are.
Yes.
um
Whatever they are.
yeah. So someone asked the question from our audience, says, how does one reclaim their joy? First of all, how do they lose it, and then how do they reclaim it?
I believe that at this age, I've lost a lot of joy. So I can say how you reclaim it is to search your own heart and say, how did this go awry? How did I help this escalate to where I am now, that that party is in pain and I'm in pain. I am an absolutely firm believer in saying I'm sorry first,
Hmm.
whether I'm wrong or not. Because I think that's a salve that once you say those words and open your heart and your mind to have the other person understand that a conversation can change everything. Your smile right now by accepting my apology begins the change,
Yeah.
begins the healing. And so, yeah, we lose it for whatever reasons, all of the reasons that we can possibly think of. But throughout my life, I do believe that when I can sit down and say, okay, this is what I did to not help that, and
Hmm.
then somehow come to terms with, pray about it. I, I'll tell you pretty much that's the first thing I do. Okay, Father, you know what? I know I was wrong. Help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. I would. So yeah, that's where I would start. This would be my answer.
And and this is the thing, and maybe we should clarify this from the onset, is
Okay.
that um, people get joy and happiness confused. They are
Yeah.
not the same,
No.
and the source of them are not the same.
So,
So when people ask me, am I happy? I said, happy is relative,
mhm.
but joy
Is
has
another matter.
longevity,
Yeah.
because happiness is always contingent upon something or someone, some
Someone else.
extraneous force to make you happy. I
Yes.
always tell my husband, I said, I didn't get married to you for you to make me happy.
Yeah.
I came happy.
Yes.
I said,
Yes.
so if I'm not happy, that's because I choose not to be. But joy, on the other hand, joy is a state of mind, a state of being, a state of spirit, regardless of what's going on.
Go
The
on.
joy that you have, the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away.
Take it
So
away.
I think we need to distinguish between joy and happiness, because people get really, really twisted in believing that, I'm not happy. I said, well, no, they say I don't have joy. I said, well, do you know the difference between joy and happiness?
Yeah.
They're like, it's the same. I'm like, no, quite contraire. It is
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's
know?
very true. Very true. And how you help yourself is to find the place in yourself where no matter what's going on outside of you, it's that I'm going to smile through this. I
Mhm.
won't allow it to shake me. And your best smile, and somebody will look, aren't you mad? No. Yeah, I'm mad, but that doesn't, what I need to do now says, I'm good. Yeah, and yeah, I totally, 100% agree with your explanation of that. Yeah.
And it doesn't change anything,
No.
because like you just said, are you happy? No, but I'm smiling, because they're not cousins to one another,
Like that.
you know. And so if I were to dive back into your history without telling your full story, because it's in the book,
Mhm.
um when you were going through chemo, or when you first found out about your diagnosis, and thankfully today is also this month is also breast cancer awareness month. I should put
Oh,
I should put my pink
oh,
flowers up there.
ribbon. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But in that, how did you maintain your joy, not happiness, but because I read your story, and it was very moving and very enlightening. How did you maintain your joy with the diagnosis and then having to go through the various treatments?
The first thing I would say is that I had to laugh at my mother. She had the very same cancer and she was gone. And I'm like, you really did this to me? DNA, is that what we're calling?
Oh, is,
So
is that
I
what this
joked
is?
about that in my, wait a minute, you didn't, why didn't the other girls get it? How come you give it to me? So I went through that many days sitting alone and I teased her. And then when I would go to where she's at rest, it was the same conversation. And I found a lot of fun in that because she was such a fun loving person. She loved to laugh. And so I thought, yeah, I hear your bones rattling.
Mm, mm.
So that was a very big thing for me to do, to understand that I was with her during her treatment, participated 100%, and it felt as though there is nothing that's going to happen to me that I haven't seen her go through. And that comforted me. And I said, so when he says the comforter will come, sometimes it comes before the tragedy. And that was
Yeah.
my comfort. That was my comfort because I would remember the fatigue. Oh, she would be so tired. And you'd have to lift her into the bed and all of that. So I had that really one big person, and because she was my mom, it made it even more large for me. And then the rest of the time, I think what I helped myself to understand was that there were so many other tragedies in my life up to and including 2019, 2018, and he brought me through them. Now,
Yeah.
I don't jump up and down and go to church and beat anybody over the head with religion. How I trust him and how I believe in him and I call him Father is in my heart. And so when the despair came, when I passed out once and had to go to the hospital, they had to transfuse me right away. I drove myself there. They were like, no, you didn't. Yeah, because he drove. I got into
Yeah.
that car and I said, so I think the basics of joy you draw up on from within you. That's the
Mm.
only way I can put it. It comes from within you.
And that is so good because a lot of people need to know that. Again, it gives that delineation or that difference between joy and happiness because joy is internal.
Yeah,
Happiness is always dependent upon the
outside.
external things, the
Yeah,
extraneous things, the things that are outside your natural being. And if we
yeah.
always relied upon what made us happy, we would be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because my steak isn't good, so I'm not happy. My husband, did this, I'm not happy. My children did that, I'm not happy. And so you could actually walk around and say that you don't have a happy day or a happy life based off of somebody else's doings or not doings or what have you. And so it's very important that we understand the difference between joy and happiness. We have a comment that says joy is a natural reaction, whether it is promised or fulfilled. And that is so true because
Yeah.
it doesn't lean into the manifestation of what you want. Joy just is,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
it just is. And so
It's
uh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
it just is. That's exactly how I feel. You can look at yourself. That was one of the other things I had further down on my responses was that I can be sad about something, but I look in the mirror and make a face, and I'm laughing because
Mm,
it's coming from I can't even control it. I just want to be silly right now to
mhm.
get this pain. So yeah, yeah. I hope more
Absolutely.
people understand that.
Yes, yes, yes. We have another question from our audience that says, what are some joy-filled plans that you have?
Those include the babies in my life, the children, the great grands, the great grands, that someday I can have a really big party. Just have them all with me and just touch each of them and kiss and hug each of them, knowing that our lives are so busy, our lives are so full. They have lives too, as small as they are. They have schedules. Parents have schedules to keep. So my desire to even be on FaceTime with them sometimes cannot happen
Yeah.
because they have other things. And my big over and above that would be to continue to build a legacy of art, of writing, of recordings that when they grow up, they can have those things to say, oh, my grandma did that, or that my grandma talking, or
Hmm.
something, or read a passage, a poem I've written and find joy and find
Yeah.
a place in themselves that maybe they will aspire to writing. They will aspire to doing something with paint or art or whatever. That's really it for me. That's huge.
And that's so important because leaving a legacy is not just about and it's very important that we leave something for our children and our children's children, even to the fourth
Yeah.
generation, according to what the Bible says.
Yes.
But we also
Yes.
need to leave them something that is tangible or something that's an imprint of us in the earth. And so I believe
Yeah.
that your art is an imprint that you're leaving. I believe that your joy, because you have such a vibrant personality, that's an imprint that you're leaving in your grandchildren. Your smile is an imprint, and I'm sure that your mother left an imprint in you and you're passing it along. Yes, it's nice to leave CDs and what I mean by
Yeah.
deposits, money CDs. It's nice to leave stocks. It's nice to leave
Yeah.
houses. That's wonderful. But
Yeah.
there's something about leaving a deposit or an imprint in the heart of the people that we love, whether they're blood or not. I think that is the best
Absolutely.
way to leave a legacy in the
Yeah.
lives of people that we care about.
Yeah.
Would you
And
agree?
you're saying that yeah, because my mother was handicapped. She couldn't use her left arm, but way down in her years, she at the senior citizen center near her home, she created a painting of a robin, two, I think there were two robin redbreasts in a tree, on a tree limb. I have it. I still have it. And when I started the art, it came to me, put that in a prominent place where I can see it and remind myself that that's the joy she left me.
Mm,
I mean, that was, I can't draw that way. And my dad was a commercial artist too. He created those big signs in my country, but I don't know how to do either of those areas of art. I'm abstract. I'm just move that paint around
yeah,
to
yeah.
an abstraction. And so, yes, when I think that someday in the future they look for my name and they'll find one of the books I've written and said, hey, there's an audio book. Let's listen to what grandma wrote. Yeah. And that's
Exactly.
what in my heart, I want to say on this program today. Find something, write a small poem, write just your thought, just a thought you're having. Something's happened, and you're sitting and you're thinking about it, and the words that are coming to your mind and to your heart to help you sort that matter out, write them down. Because
Yes.
one of those young people are going to go through that very same situation. It'll look different, may feel different, but they may find those words you wrote and feel, oh my, so this has happened before, and this is how I can manage it. I would ask any of the folks at my place, help yourself, leave something for somebody else.
Absolutely. That's rich. That is very rich because I try to tell people that when they say they don't have a story, I said if you write a book, that will live longer than your car, it'll live longer than the house, because it's in the annals of time. It's written. It's
Yeah,
You can't take it back. It's been released.
yeah,
And so that's why I love literary work. I love doing books. I love helping authors. And ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Miss Arlene McGuire, and we're talking about joy in later
thank you.
years. And she's one of the authors, one of the co-authors in my next book that's coming out December 6th, called My Bald is Beautiful, I Am Not My Hair. And she has a very powerful story. And I think it's very important to help people to leave an impact and an imprint in the world through writing. And so you are exactly right. There's so much more that we can leave in
Yeah,
the earth besides material things that would leave joy, leave
yeah,
joy, leave joy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we have another question. All these questions. Who are you
yeah.
when you are your most joyful self? Now we know you like to make silly faces in the mirror. Who are you when you are your most joyful self at 70?
I'm probably, my husband might say Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny because I talk to him that way. What are you doing? Hey, come here. What are you doing? Will yell. I feel as he's a very serious and a very somber person. And
Mhm.
I'm so all over the place. And so we bounce off each other and we balance, he's like, we balance each other out that way. But I feel as though he continues to work and I don't work, I work here. So when he's away and he comes home, I go off the rails and I just run around and I try to be giddy. I run down the stairs and he'll say, you better stop that. And so I feel it's just in me though, that I'm able to do that. Someone else may not have this temperament, and so
Yeah.
they would have to find a thing that they can do to make themselves or to make someone respond to a silly thing they do. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing I do is I get in the shower and I sing really loud.
Okay. Okay.
Or I get in the. I grew up listening to my mom and my dad sing Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Elvis Presley, and so a lot of those songs. I may only know the chorus today, but I have fun doing it, and I'm just yelling at the top of my lungs. The other thing I like to do is get in the mirror and make faces, and there's a TikTok thing about that for to make faces, and I enjoy doing that. So. Uh, I will try to cross my eyes and take a picture of myself. That's never worked. Silly. I just have the sillies. And when I noticed that I do that a lot when I spent a lot of time with my granddaughter, um, Savannah, she was just so fun. And she brought out a lot of things I wanted to make her laugh. And so I
Hmm.
started with Bugs, and then she watched Dora the Explorer. And so I got into those modes with her. And even in that, I found a unique place. I don't do children things. And so with her being a caretaker, I put Dora, and she couldn't say Dora. She said Doa. So Grandma Doa, well, I was Doa. And I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And then her brother came. I loved it even more. Then now there were two of them. So I would say to those coming into this place or already here, it's the simplest thing in the world. Water fights, not food fights, especially in the summertime. Water wetting, if you wash your hands. And I had a husband that did that. I hated it. Now I love it. My daughter will do it to me and splash you with water, and that's very fun because Savannah and I do that also. I just feel like there's the only place you can go to get that is in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only place. It's not in eating. I overeat to feel like, oh, I feel good. No, I don't. I feel sick now.
Yeah.
It's not in alcohol. I drank. I don't. No, that doesn't smoke. No, that doesn't work. Now I stink.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in here. It's in here. It's in here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are talking to Arlene McGuire, and our topic for today is
Hello.
joy in later years. She does not look it, but she is a beautiful 70. But, I love the
Thank
fact that
you.
you have stepped into life and you have not allowed life to seep out of you. And I really enjoy the fact that you are authentically yourself because, most people would, dare to say, well, I'm too old to act silly, or I'm too old to do this, or I'm too old to do that. Age is a mindset. I mean, it's not just an age, but it's a mindset. And so someone asked the question, how joyful you are now. How do you see yourself at 80 or at 90? Do you think that you're going to still be as courageously uh, silly as you are now? Or do you think you're going to settle down? I mean, what do you think in your imagination that's going to look like? Because you can't forecast what's going to happen in 10 years. But do you think you'll have the same concept of joy at 80 and 90?
Yes, and if it's only to have one paintbrush and two tubes of acrylic paint, there will be joy.
Awesome.
Because if it feels as though I look onto the walls around me, and I'm amazed that I did those things.
Mm, that's
See
that's
that?
amazing.
I did that on that wall and the other little things. So it feels as though if I can say to someone, prior to all the art, it was writing. I would
Mm,
scribble. I have so many notebooks with just scribbles, and then I try to bring them together later on. When I was younger, I liked words. Sometimes I'll just write words and I'll go look them up. I
mm,
don't know that I'm going to get sad and not sad, but dull. I'll use the word dull and not be
yeah.
vibrant anymore. I feel as though that in and of itself helps me to think or feel believe that number means nothing. That number
Yeah.
means nothing. What can I put out of myself? That
Hmm.
diminishes the number for me. And the younger and I'm not trying to be young, but the ideas in my head aren't solemn, aren't, you know, bored. It's not, I can't do those. In my
Yeah.
person, I just can't do those very easily. Although my take on life can be very dark because I always try. I'm the optimist, but the optimist in me allows me to see how things can go wrong before they go right.
Mm, mm.
Sad to say. So the joy, I see how I can be joyful. My husband will make me mad about something, and before he comes home, I make a decision. Okay, I'm gonna be real mad. You know, let that go. And I
Yeah.
find the joy. How long does it take you to get home from work? Why are you so late? And he's just laughing in the car. Oh my God, I'm not going home. She's crazy. The joy, I find it really easy. And I hope other people do. Now use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say a lot of key things because again, when I look at some people who are younger than yourself, who have essentially just sat down on life and they've said, well, I
Oh
have a
my.
ache here, or I have a pain there, or
Yeah.
I don't have anyone to do life with, or what have you. And they've essentially just
Yes.
sat down on life, waiting for each day to come and each day to go,
Mm, mm,
and
mm,
they're not
mm.
making any concerted effort to say, you know what, I need to put a little more living in the life that I have left.
Yes.
And so it's very important that we discover what joy looks like to us. And I love that you find joy in painting, and you find joy in writing, and joy in laughing, because a lot of people, again, who are younger than yourself, it's like they're mad that they woke up. And again, what is the alternative? Are you happy to
Oh
be here and you're going to make
my.
the best of it, or you're going to be grumpy and just wait for the days to pass until you pass,
Yeah.
you know?
There are other things as you're speaking. I'm thinking when I grew up in New York, Harlem was very hard. It was concrete jungle time, and what did you find joyful about that? I think today I found joy when I went outside and took pictures of the tree in the yard. It had these markings on the tree that I never noticed before. And then I took my shoes off and walked on grass on earth. I'm like, I didn't have this when I was young. I lived in an apartment. Now it's a home. And I walked around and it just felt different. And it feels as though when I came back inside, there was this like energy buildup that
Mhm.
just felt like I drew something from the tree. And I've heard of this before, but I never tried it out myself. But my hands grasping that trunk, taking a picture, feeling my toes crunching the grass, I say to a young person who cannot find the wherewithal to stand up on any given day, go to Walmart and touch some plants.
Mm.
Go to
That's
Walmart
good.
and just whisper to a plant. Go to Walmart and bounce a ball, or there are fun things that are simple. You may not be able to buy the plant. A plant today is like $16. You may not be, but they won't throw you out of the store if you're just touching the leaf. If you're
Yeah.
just, yeah. And so, in the smallest thing for a young person, that here's one that is there an elder
Hmm.
anywhere in your life? Go stand next to them and say, tell me a story.
Yes, exactly.
They're missing so much. They're missing so much because we are still here. We have so much we can share, but because as you get older, you're not as quick, you're not as upbeat. But I would say, touch an elder shoulder, rub their head,
Hold their
tell me a
hand.
story, hold their
Hmm.
hand. Thank you for finishing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is so key. And I think we miss it. Um, regardless of our age. Yes, the millennials, they miss it because to them life is just fleeting and speeding through, and the next
Yes.
like and the
Yeah.
next social post and all of that. But I think
Yeah.
for most of us, I think we really need to pause and really appreciate the intake of air, the outtake of air, and then to look around you. I'm a people watcher. So I can be in the
Oh,
store or
okay.
what have you, and I like to watch people, not because I'm
Yeah.
nosy, but because
No.
in my mind I'm wondering
Mind.
what makes them happy today, or what made them get up today, or why do they look so sad, or why do they look angry. And I'm having this conversation in my mind about this person or these people that I'm watching, and I'm like, Lord, did they really, appreciate what you gave them today? That is the ability to breathe in and to breathe out, to touch, to feel, to taste, to smell. Just the five senses are a blessing. Like you
Ah,
said,
I
to
can't
go to
move to a
Walmart
router.
and go to Walmart and touch a plant or smell a plant. That it may seem silly, but we have to learn how to find appreciation
There you are.
in the smaller things, the simple things in life. And
Yes.
I'm so glad that you brought that to light. So, how do we keep active and mindful of our health issues in our later years? I mean, outside of going to the doctor and those things, but there are some things that we live with that aren't going away. Like I have arthritic hips, and that's not going away.
Oh,
I was I
mhm.
was a cheerleader, a dancer, and a gymnast, and so as a result,
Okay.
I have arthritis in my hips, and so arthritis doesn't go away. But I make
No.
the best of my days with what I do. I don't let that health challenge become um, a crippling
Overpowering,
thing.
overwhelming, crippling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, the the one thing, as I mentioned before, I try to do whatever kind of exercise while I'm watching television, sitting in a chair. The other thing, some time ago, I a few years ago, I tried to do Zumba, and that was fun, but it didn't last very. They moved too fast. I couldn't keep up,
But they have
but
Zumba
I still
Silver.
have.
They have Zumba
Oh, I
Silver because
did
I
not
used to do.
know.
Yeah, I used to do Zumba Silver because of my hips. I couldn't do the fast stuff. So the Zumba
Yes,
Silver is just at a slower pace. But
wonderful.
yeah, they have
I looked
Zumba
that up.
Gold too. So yeah, look it up.
Okay.
They have it.
So, well, from that, I had the mat. I bought one of those packets, and I had the mat and the dumbbells, the little things that you use. And so, in the room where I am, I can put that mat on the floor and get on it. And I would not tell you that I can do this every day, but at least twice in a week, or if I push it all the way to the weekend, depending on the projects I'm working on, at some point in time, you get down there and you do something. The other thing I try to do is because of diabetes, I cut everything in half. If it says I can have two cookies, I have one. If it says you can only have one cookie, I have half. I walk around and sometimes I pick up a tissue and there's a half a cookie flying to the floor. Now, when did I forget to eat that?
Mm,
That's another thing. What we're eating.
yeah.
I ate badly a lot in my life. So I'm thankful that my health isn't, in a worse shape than it is today. And what I try to do is stay away from the things that I know aren't healthy for you. You cannot eat out 2, 3 days in a week. When you're young, again, that's okay. Up here, you can't do that. The intake of water to try to, and then to not overeat. My husband is the cook. And that guy just, it's too good, his food, too good.
My husband too. My husband is the cook.
Oh
I'm like, oh
my.
my God. He's like, babe, I cooked dinner. I was like, I can't eat all that. But he's an
I
amazing
should
cook.
take you. See, we're so blessed. We're so blessed. I tell you, I'm loving it because I don't like to cook. I just don't. I'll clean, but I won't cook. So that you fall into a trap. Those sauces, that butter, that honey. So those things you have to consciously say, I can't do those. I
Yeah, that's
can't do
true.
that. Or
Yeah.
you do it by half, everything by half. And if you can, and if it's really true, then by 1/4. So now, where we live, there are many people that walk the subdivision. at different times, different days. There were no groups. We haven't formed a group, and that came to my mind. I should get to the president and say, "Hey, let's form a group." Okay, that's not possible. I get out there and I just walk. I have a treadmill. I do, folks. It's the most important thing just to walk, just to walk.
Yep.
If it's even up and down the
I walk.
stairs, just to walk. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the most important thing is to, I stubbed my toe the other day and I had a blood clot. I'm like, okay, see, I've got to get rid of that. Move your ankles. I'm sitting and I'm doing that with my feet just to move the
Hmm.
ankles. My toe, the circulation in the body causes blood from pooling if you're sitting a lot. We miss
Yeah.
that. When you
Yeah.
sit a lot, stuff. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So those are the simple things that I myself try to do, and I would encourage anyone else to do those as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Miss Arlene McGuire, who is discussing joy in the later years. And she is 70 years young, but she looks no older than 50. Amen. I tell you, God has been gracious and kind.
I am
Um,
thankful. I am
yes,
thankful.
yes, he has. So when we talk about self, um, do you feel that your self has diminished or become insignificant later in years, or it doesn't appear to be so for you? Maybe for somebody else, but I think you have a pretty good anchor on who you are.
Yeah, and that was shaken a bit because at some point in time, I think I felt as though folks did not want to be bothered with the elderly,
Mm,
put us away or put someone else to take care of us. And then we heard all the horror stories about nursing homes or hospice or whatever. And
yeah.
I didn't grow up that way. I grew up, I was brought up with the mindset that you take care of. They
Hmm.
took care of you. You take it. You don't even have a choice in the matter. And so
Exactly.
that's how we live. Now it's that, well, we don't have time for you. We can't afford to do, and so we'll shunt you off. And it seemed as though we we our vote was necessary, and I don't do political things at all. And I said to myself, so that's important, but the care of my person is not.
Mm,
That's a discrepancy I can't even begin to close the gap on. But I watch
yeah.
many people put their elders away, but take them to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
I felt kind of, and the word that I wrote two poems about this insignificant, this how I started to feel, even among my own. It was that you get up there, well, it's like a problem to do this or to do that, or some of the accommodations we have to make for you are a little stressful. And I said, I never did that to my mother.
Yeah. You
Her
do you have
handicap taught me
her handicap taught you? Go ahead, hon.
taught me that how much you give to a person, you can expect that how good you're going to feel when you have taken care of them is just so uplifting. I would come home so tired, but I made her smile. I picked her up. I dressed her. I combed her hair. I put her, and that made her smile at me and thank me. And I don't understand how I could ever think of her as insignificant, even with a diminished capacity. And so when that word struck my heart, I had to say to myself, how will you behave if that becomes your life, where you're treated
Mm,
as insignificant? And it felt like, well, that's the road some of us have to walk. But I know that the Father that I love and I have served for the majority of my life, I don't jump up and down. It's just his who he is. He's who he is to me. And if
yeah.
that's what he wants, if I have to go through that, there's something to be learned from it.
Yeah.
It may be to
Mm,
teach someone who's abusive how to not be abusive. It may
yes.
be to teach some physician that I may be your lab rat
but you don't have to be ill-mannered or ill-tempered. So
Yeah,
even going through those difficulties, there can still be a lesson we can impart. And I'm open
exactly.
to that because he wants me to do that, I'll do that.
That is absolutely true. And I'm so glad that you made mention of, the insignificance part and, learning, seeing what people do now with their elderly. They just put them somewhere because they're too busy. And, my husband and I, we relocated out of state to be closer to my mother because we were about 7 hours away. And so now we're 25 minutes away because I'm like,
Yes.
when she said,
Yeah.
none of my children are here with me, that broke my heart.
Mm,
And when she needed me, it was just too far. And so
yes.
we made the conscious decision, to sacrifice, not that it was a hard choice. We made the decision to move to where she is. And so I'm
Yes.
like you. And so he and I have these discussions like, okay, if mom gets to a certain level, do we bring her here or do we just go get something where all three of us can live? And so those are
Beautiful.
discussions that we have.
Beautiful.
I told her, I said, I will not put you away.
Will not.
I will not do that because you took care of me. And so, like you said, the roles get reversed. And I think we need to remember that people are significant as long as they're breathing, that they are still vital and
Mm.
very important. You said you had a poem for us. Are you going to read it for
Oh
us
yeah.
today?
Oh yes, I would love to. I ended up watching a movie about elderly people in a home, and it kind of brought tears to my eyes. But this is what I wrote: Elder joy. Elder joy is self-made and self-taught, I believe. As the numbers increase and we feel its weight, at day's end we give thanks. At day's end we should conceive what joy tomorrow's dawn will awaken within us. When we arrive there, we will be prepared. Being awake is where the joy begins, and we give thanks for that awakening, for a new opportunity to smile at someone in our world, another chance to tell a silly story or a somber story. Within each one, there is a lesson we have learned and are able to share now. Never mind that it goes unheard. Your smile within your heart, and how many other stories you could tell. The joy is now your memories of healing your own heart. So, elder joy is already within us to be called upon anytime we want to have some fun.
Beautiful. I like it. I like it. I like it.
Wonderful.
That is wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we have been speaking with none other than Miss Arlene McGuire. We've been talking about joy in the later years. If
Yeah.
you want to reach out to Miss Arlene, you can certainly do so at her email, which is arlene.mcguire@comcast.net. That's ARLENE dot McGuire, MCGUIRE at comcast.net. You can also visit her on TikTok at Arlene McGuire 723. You can certainly go out there and hear her talk about that. And she also has an art store called Ava. Say it for me, Arlene. I always mess it up.
avamac.store.
avamac.store. That's what it is.
Mhm.
And so we
Yes.
just want you to go out there. She has some beautiful art. I can't wait for her to walk around with her camera after this is said and done so I can look at her walls. But amazing, amazing. Just want to do a few announcements before we have Miss Arlene close us out. I want to remind you all, excuse me. Well, let me say this. We have a new book that's out, new book called Boots and Beyond: Stories of Trials, Tragedy, Triumph, and Transition. It is ready for pre order. And if you would like to have a copy, please send me an email at Michele, Michele, at iam-mij.com. The cost of the book is $20. Pre order your copy today. The release date is November the 11th, Veterans Day. So, once again, get your copy, pre order now. Boots and Beyond: Stories of Trials, Tragedy, Triumph, and Transition for $20. You can send me an email at Michele at im-mij.com to get your copy. We are still selling our anthology in recovery, rising from the ruins. You can get your copy for $15. Again, send an email to Michele at im-mij.com. And for those of you who would like to watch the replay of this particular session or any of the other sessions in the past 3 seasons, you can go to my YouTube channel at Life Matters with Michele TV Official. That is Life Matters with Michele TV Official. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can also hear each one of my shows every Friday at 4:00 p.m. on sensationalsoundsradio.net. That's right. If you can't watch it, you can certainly listen to it online at www.sensationalsoundsradio.net every Friday at 4:00 p.m. And I am now seeking guests for season number 4 that starts January 2022. I am trying to decide, we'll wait and see what the Lord says. I'm trying to decide if I'm still going to do it every week or if I'm going to do it once a month or twice a month. We will see what the Lord says so that I can have a little more space in my day, in my weekend to share with my mother and, hang out with her and hang out with my husband on those days. So again, if you want to be a guest, please reach out to me at www.im-mij.com/contact us to be a guest for season 4 that starts January 2022. All right, Miss Arlene, give us some closing thoughts on joy in the later years. What words of advice do you have for our listeners and our viewers on today?
I think the spirituality that becomes a bigger part of yourself as you see those numbers climb is the ultimate thing, that you have to go within yourself and say, okay, all the things that have transpired in my life, he's brought me through. I know that I have a father, and I know that he's watched over me, he's taken care, he's solved my problems. They may not look like they were solved, but he did. And so you acknowledge that. And I mean, I grew up in the church. I lived that life. I towed the line, but there were times that you just go off the rail. And I know many people go off the rail, and I can only promise anyone that you have dire things in your heart or mind, and you want to clear a path and make your life better, is to just reach out, and call on him to help you. Amen. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to preach. You don't have to be a minister. All you need to do is acknowledge that he is there. He is there.
I preached my message today called God's in It. And that was my message, talking about, God is in it. In anything that you're in, he can be in there with you. He can be in there because of you, and he can be in there for you. You just have to know who he is, and he will certainly be there at your beck and call. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with Miss Arlene McGuire, talking about joy in the later years. I want to thank you, my beautiful girl friend, she's one of my queens. That's what I want to call her. One of my beautiful queens. Thank you so much for coming on the show on today and for gracing us with your presence. Such a beautiful spirit. And we will be talking soon. Ladies and gentlemen, she's one of the co-authors in the book that's coming out next, which is My Bald is Beautiful, I Am Not My Hair. She has a very powerful story. So when we do our pre-orders, I want you all to order a copy of this book for her story, my story, and 13 other women who are talking about their bald heads. Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is our show. Thank you again for tuning in to Life Matters, because we talk about everything that matters in your life. Until then, you all have a blessed week, and we'll talk to you again real soon. God bless.